Daryl?
Here.
Here. Jane?
Here.
Claire? Marcia? Karen?
She's absent.
Jerry?
Here.
And Debbie? Two trustee liaisons here tonight, and staff. Great.
And you got our guest?
Yes.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be noted.
We would. Okay, so we have to officially approve the agenda. It's on number 3.
So
Is
moved.
anyone, okay?
Second.
I think I see someone coming. It looks like Marcia. Oh, all right. Now on to public comment. Are there any comments the public would like to make? We're all looking at you, Sandy.
There she is.
Okay.
There's Marcia.
Everyone.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
You just missed roll call. We're on to
Marcia Rain. Did I make it?
a minute. Good. Discussion items. 5A, annual leadership election. The election of chair and vice, although I like to say co-chair. But it's absolutely not allowed. Is anyone interested in running for either chair or vice chair?
I'm quite happy with the status quo.
I second. I move that Daryl and Melinda are chair and vice chair, respectively, if they will.
I would love to do another year, so
Second.
feels like
I second it.
I think that's a coerced second.
I know it wasn't. It was, I love that.
Pretty sure.
There's an elbow nudge there.
I'm sure there's that. All right, then on to revised meeting structure. I'm going to let Melinda take this away because she's the one that sort of brainstormed ideas. Because I think we've heard a little bit that our meetings get a little out of hand.
The creative nature of this committee lends to, some really fun debates and input. So I think this year is going to be really exciting. Last year was hard because we were trying to get the Master of Cultural Arts concept going forward, and there was just a lot of nitty-gritty business items to discuss. But with the forethoughts of all of with this 2019 annual work plan, right? So now that we have the council approval and the budget for 2019, and we have this work plan, and we have a new staff member, and we seem to have all of the pieces in place, this year is going to be the fun, we're going to start being able to implement all of our great creative ideas. And I think because of that, our meetings have to be more structured because we have a lot of work to do, right? So I thought it would be a good idea if our agendas were more detailed and maybe set time limits per discussion item. I think because we are a popular, fun committee, when we start putting up the artwork, we might have more public comment and invite more people, and we can't let that take over. So I think we're going to structure the agenda a little differently. So we invite public comment per agenda item, and then we will stop, and then we will have a committee-only discussion so that we are able to get a sense of who can take a lead of certain things. We're not going to have, what were we calling it before? When we had subcommittees and the chairs and stuff like that. We're just going to have people
Be a lead.
be a lead, right? And that doesn't mean you have any decision-making, power over anyone else. But anyway, I think
Well, I think the idea behind that too was that we all thought it would be easier to work in smaller groups, but the reality is we all really love what's going on, and so the smaller groups weren't really happening as much. But that doesn't mean that we don't divide up the work.
exactly. And I think one of the other things that we need to talk about later is how familiar and comfortable everyone is with the papers aspect of the Dropbox, because Cheryl and I have been uploading a lot of Pinterest pictures and ideas to this Dropbox file, and it is a great way to share ideas and have a discussion, like between us. And so there's really no need to necessarily break out into separate committees if we have that background, visual and, written communication between each other. So, anyway, and then that helps us do the committee-only voting. If we have a specific time per agenda item, it'll be easier instead of saying, okay, stop, time out, let's do this. So, and what was the table setup?
Just, there was,
Oh,
is it too hard to sit like this and have our discussion? I mean, a lot of committees sit up at the dais. I personally don't love the dais. I think you do a lot of this, and it's hard to have deep conversation. But I just wanted to put it out there. If people wanted to change it up and try it differently, then I think it's open for discussion. I know that you had some concerns, so I'd really love to hear if you...
Oh, no, I'm not thinking that dais. I really like what we have going here. But I do agree completely with Melinda that we need a separation between public comment and our functioning.
So on that note, if we did have, for instance, knowledge that there would be a very large public attendance or something, maybe we would open it up to I feel the same way. I have no interest in sitting up there unless it would be that the public needed to communicate other than sitting around this table, which I presume they would do, right? If they come, they don't have to be separate from us if it's a small group.
I don't like that they're separate. I like that we're all part of this community,
Right.
so I do like that. So it just feels like that's the way our committee is. We're not meant for sitting up there and looking out onto the...
Well, and plus the fact, if you look at it, that our committee is community building and events and really trying to encourage that. That's very different than, for instance, OSAC or something. I mean, we really want people to gather with that little bit more structure, that if we have people that would like to public comment, that they really know when they're going to public comment. And I think that the chair is going to have to explain that, because to us it's a little surprising how people don't understand how it works. But even just from our neighborhood, they're like, well, what do we do? I don't get this, and so you're explaining it. So I think the chair has to let people know that this is how it works. This is what, when you can comment and how long it will be, and because they really don't understand that. So.
Yeah. We could hold up cards. I remember this kindergarten teacher, she had a green card and a red card, because this one little boy had a hard time knowing when he could talk and when he couldn't talk. And I thought that was just such a sweet way to really give him a visual clue, but not reprimand him or anything, but just kind of okay, you can talk now. Okay, it's time to stop.
So I'll give our shameless plug, the committee training on the 2nd.
Oh yeah.
We are going to go over a modified Robert's Rule of Order.
Okay.
And then talk about these exact roles, and something that happens on a couple of the other committees is we can handle that type of protocol piece if you want, but for those of you that can make it on the 2nd, we'll plan on going over some of that.
Yeah, so do you want to give us a quick, since you brought it up, the committee training on February 2nd?
So you guys are all warm and fuzzy, invite people to the table. Oh my gosh.
it's a shin killer.
Yeah, that's a shin killer.
Yeah.
So February 2nd, we're going to host here in this room from 9 to 11 our first ever advisory committee training with the big picture goal of identifying roles, of responsibility for committee members, chairs, staff liaisons, board liaisons. Go over just some modified kind of protocol, and then talk about things like appropriateness of communications and a little bit of flow, and just answer questions, a lot of like what was brought up here. So we also have a training guideline that we're putting together that we're also putting timelines in for things like work plan generation. If you guys have questions you want to take to the board, the process we can follow to get you guys in front of the board. So just kind of a good comprehensive overview of the government process.
Okay. Is it required, are all committee members required to attend?
Not to attend. I think what we are going to do is make sure that everybody has that guideline book
And they
or handout.
read it and sign it?
Yeah, and then, we're going to record it and post it. And then our thought is, we continue the tradition annually. And if we have a big onboarding, which sometimes happens in June, as committee members will sometimes lose their second term will end in June.
Right.
Typically, if we find that we have a big group of advisory committee members joining on at once, we'll plan just to host another one.
Okay. Thank you. So has everybody got that February 2nd from 9 to 11 here? Okay, so we good with the way the table is and just trying to keep a little more,
think so.
more cohesive
Do we need to vote on
structure?
it, or are we good?
You're good.
Okay.
Staying the same, I'd say. Okay, so now on to the work plan, which is going for review to the board on January 28th. I did pull up a few things, or think of a few things as we were. I'd love
Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I have two quick questions. Patrick's doing that. So in terms of, and I didn't see it on the agenda, in terms of Dropbox, and I thought we talked about, we were going to walk through that tonight. Is that a no, because we're too busy, which is fine?
We talked about having a specific training, and Bob said he would allow us to use his training room. I have a Mac. I don't have a way to do anything here. We have to do it in a public place. He has a conference room that we could notice and then do a training there. You could bring your laptops if you have one. If not, we have a computer you could borrow. So if you wanted to, because I know you just have a desktop, right? So we could do that. And so
Okay, because I mean, as I was commenting, a lot of those things, like you don't realize that everybody's emailed.
Well,
So maybe
and I can
there's
turn
maybe
off the notices for that too. I think there's some different noticing that's happening, and so if we don't want all the emails. But the thing about that though, there's a plus and minus. I mean, paper is meant to be a collaborative process, and so you write something and the rest of us should be seeing it, and there's a to-do list in there. So you could essentially be assigned things on the to-do list, and then when it gets checked off, we could know that you had finished your component.
Okay.
So
We're just doing it at some point in the not too distant future if we're really going to use Dropbox, so we all know how to use it and we're efficient with it, and we're not going outside some protocol. So
That would be really helpful for me because I'm probably the least tech savvy in my own thought process. I need some really strong guidance. And then so I would be on board with a training session of any kind. And I also would prefer to transition with the emails, not stop them. Is that what?
what do you mean transition?
Well, I mean, were you saying that you're at this point still sending out emails? I missed what you were.
So if you go into Dropbox into the paper, like we
Right.
have the master plan, and I saw that you were in there looking at it
Right.
today, and if you write a comment, then everybody gets emailed.
Okay.
And then people can respond to that. And so Debbie's asking, do you respond to the email or do you respond within
Okay.
Do we want to do this training, say, the middle of February, or do we want to do it before then, like our normal middle?
Probably. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I mean, the other thing as well is lynda.com. I mentioned in that one email, if you have a library card, you can go to lynda.com, and there is a training on Dropbox paper. So that
Well,
can get you
Dropbox has training too, but it is really more the protocol, like with the emails, and then I'm adding stuff in, realizing that everybody's being broadcast with all my comments, which is fine, but is that making it really cumbersome, and you want to not do that? I mean, it's really more the protocol, because you can go in Dropbox and get training classes, and Linda is LYNDA.
Oh, good, thank you, Everett.
And if you have a library card, it's free. So you go to the Louisville Library online and find lynda.com and log in, and then you give your library card number, and you can log in. And there's all kinds of really cool training there.
Okay.
It seems like maybe sooner rather than later we should do
I would think so, if it's going to be an efficient way to communicate.
And because it's new, as we can talk about how we want it to work for us.
Okay.
This is meant for a work environment, we're a committee environment, so it might not be useful to be emailed every single time somebody makes a comment.
We're in a unique situation where a lot of our discussions are visual, right? Like, look at this idea, look at that idea, and that's not something that's easily, reproducing at a meeting. So.
And I think as long as you guys always err on the side of not making an official decision on anything until you're together as a group, the email dialogue's completely appropriate. And it's a good way to establish like discussion items to bring to this meeting. So I think as long as you guys are staying on that side of the discussion, you're fine to.
I mean, it's sort of like Pinterest, but you're putting all your ideas in one place. So, and we can bring it up. I can show you. Like, I took all of those master plans, and they're inserted in that one single document.
All of them.
So the master plans are there. All our Pinterest boards are there. All of our. I have to go find my.
Are you bringing it? I was G-rated, wasn't it?
Huh?
In my comments.
Another good reason to make sure you're staying on the right side of the discussion.
Hang on.
And then Patrick, is there a way for members of the public to see what's in Dropbox?
There's not currently, but that's something I know that as we've only really started using it as a file sharing system to make sure that all committee members had access to the same info.
Sure.
From just a background knowledge standpoint. What we're going to try to do is then take those documents in their final form and then link them to the committee's page.
Gotcha.
But hopefully through this onboarding system that we're trying to create is, take ProStack for instance. We have new members who weren't around when we did this 2014 Indoor Survey, which guides a lot of our decisions. So trying to get everybody up to speed as quickly as possible has been a bit cumbersome. Also trying to make sure that we're being super transparent about it. And we're going to talk a little bit about how staff thinks that process should work on the second in terms of no formal decision points, discussion items brought to agendas, and then the final documents need to live in some format on the town's website, which is public.
Perfect. Well, and I keep calling it the wrong thing. I think it's paper. You can save it as a PDF file.
Perfect.
So that whole PDF, you can do it as a presentation. You can save it as a PDF file. So that can all. I mean, for us, there are working documents. They're not really meant for the public in that sense. I mean, they really are our, brainstorming boards essentially.
Right. There are.
But there is opportunity for them.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Mine's probably actually on now that I think about it.
Well, and I'm assuming that we, at least at this point in time, won't use the town's official Dropbox.
We can't actually add anything.
Well, we can't add anything to it, but then we can go, oh, I really like this, or comment on an event in our Dropbox, and then bring it to the meetings, and then it's formalized, and then it goes over to the Dropbox on the town side, right?
So right now, with OSAC, they send us everything and we put it in there. That way it runs through us and it becomes this public
The official
document. All of it.
All of it? Even when they're talking about Shan Shan Trailhead or
All
something?
400 and some documents.
Oh my gosh, so really they're just going blah and all this stuff?
Yeah, but some of that, they want that knowledge base.
Okay.
So, I think that's something as we figure these technologies out.
Yeah, ours is never been meant for, ours is, Pinterest pictures, basically.
Yeah, but so this is the master plan, so this is what the actual document looks like. And so you can see up here all the people that have been invited. You can go and see if they've actually logged on. I'm looking at it now, when they viewed it. I mean, it's a really comprehensive tool. These are the initial comments.
But this is on ours.
This is on ours. So you can
Brainstorming site.
drop down to our goals and see, like, here's our Pinterest for marketplace ideas. So I was messing around with Art Before You Dig. And here are all of our master plans. So these are all of so if we wanted to go back, I tried to label them. So here's your Castle Rock, the Boulder. So everything is in one place so that we can have a discussion. We're not trying to find things in your Dropbox, it just all is in this one planning document. And then the next steps, which are actual, if we wanted to assign it to somebody, we can put a date on it, we can give it to somebody, and that's their job to go out and do. So it's a pretty...
Is there a limit, by the way, like when Patrick said we had must-haves for the master plan? And we briefly talked about it 2 weeks ago, but where to put my 5 or 6, I just added them.
So what?
Well, I did too. So like you can see, like I logged on this week and some of this stuff is mine. Like,
Oh, that's where okay, that's where they ended up.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can see, so it was actually placemaking, so you can see where I made a lot of comments about placemaking.
But how did you get it there rather than on the right side?
That's a comment over here. So
Right.
if you want to go in here, you just start typing
You have the
there.
ability to edit, so you can go in and edit this.
Okay.
And then, or on the side, like Daryl would post something
And I see it and I'm like, oh wait, I have a comment about this. I don't want to actually change the text, but I have the thought.
Okay, so I was adding the comments. Is there a limit to how long that stream of comments can be?
I think the comment is as long as it's, yeah.
Will they appear somewhere, or will it separate out?
They appear on this side.
Right, but like here you see this one.
Yeah.
Here's mine, and then Daryl commented about story time somewhere.
Right, and these are you can go and reply to them right here directly, or you can, if it's resolved, then you click resolve and that comment goes away, and that's out of the.
Okay.
So another way to do it is, so if you had ideas, you could create a Word document. That Word document could get added in here as well.
That's right.
So if you don't want to go and make any edits in here, you can create a Word document, and we just add it in the appropriate place. You go here, and there's these options. You can add a calendar date, a create to-do list, a Dropbox file, media, any different things can be added.
And that would appear on the side?
Within the document itself.
So I have a question about editing. What are the thoughts about a person someone goes in and edits? Does that just appear as underlined? I mean, you don't just randomly change text, do you? Or you?
Well, in this case, you are changing. It's not redlined.
You just suddenly change the document, and that's where it is?
But it's okay, right? Because this is not an official document. These are just our ideas that we're going to give to the consultants, right? So so you can, and when you read it and you have an idea, just put it under the heading where you think where it belongs.
I see.
Right? Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. These are just all of our must-haves that he says to present to the consultants.
I didn't know where to put them.
Yeah.
So I just wrote a comment at the very top under master plan, just added them in. But
Right.
I realistically could have actually entered them in the document. I just didn't want to mess up. I didn't realize that, like, you had commented on the Mac and Cheese Festival. I thought that was just something that was added in originally. So.
No, and then as you can see, you can export it, you can turn it into a template, you can turn it into a presentation, which is kind of cool. So suddenly we have a presentation,
So now go to one of the other utility boxes, and so you.
Yeah, and those I haven't made public to everybody because I didn't want everybody's inboxes to be overwhelmed, but they are available. So here's our CAPS planning, and we've started just the prairie dog, actually, this is a great one to have a conversation about, because I've contacted this woman, we have pricing on getting a 4-foot prairie dog. And this is the Word document right here, so we can go to it and look at it.
So then I have a question. Now, if I'm reading along, this is not available for.
No, this is one that's not, that I thought we should have a training before everybody goes willy-nilly.
Something for you to go in and.
So the question is, and this is also because of my lack of knowledge of it, the work that I did on the prairie dogs, I brought it visually here, but
we can add it.
Also put it.
Like scroll down so she can see where you
Yeah.
added.
I got you. Okay.
So here's our caps. This is our Pinterest board that has the prairie dogs, all the stuff that we've been adding to the Pinterest board.
Okay.
And I think that this one's pretty light in terms of information, but it's just, again, it's just sort of our idea board to get everything out. And then, like I said, this is a document, and so if you don't want to go and edit anything, you don't have to feel like you have to touch it. You can just,
And comments like I did on
See the
side.
comments over here?
Gotcha. You can add comments, or you can send it to me and it can get added.
Yeah, I think training sooner rather than later would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I think like most things, I think you just need to play with it. I think training is
Well,
going to
that
be
is
helpful.
true, yeah.
But I use Dropbox every day, and you'll get used to it. The same way you're used to your email or Facebook or whatever technology you're using on the screen, it's going to be second nature to you pretty quick.
So my daughter said, she said, Mom, will you quit being so bright and good?
But
Get in there.
yeah, you can't break it. I mean, it is, from my perspective, because you're right, it doesn't do redline changes. I personally don't like when somebody's editing a document that I've done in Dropbox. My personal preference is the comments, or to drop in another document that say, do this, do that. But I think, again, you guys are a small group, you work so well together. I think just get in there and play with it. And if you break something, it's not the big deal. We can fix it. Like, it's not, this is your tool, so.
And I think that was the key, is you can add comments, but don't delete someone else's, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just schedule a training and
Okay.
talk about, I never really used paper and found it to be pretty amazing in terms of what it does for us, especially if we're using Dropbox for documents like the master plans that we had. So,
We want to do it next week?
sure. Do we want to look at our calendars to see, or do we want to plan it for our mid-month meeting?
Well, that's 3 weeks.
I would do it before.
So,
Either next week or the week
the
after that.
31st, if Thursdays are good. And we can do it almost any time. It'll be in Louisville off of South Boulder Road. It's not far, it's like 8 minutes away.
I'm free next Thursday.
Okay. Next Thursday for training? 24th? 31st. Today's the 24th.
What time is that?
For you, 5:30.
5:30 would work for me.
Okay. And we can carpool out there.
Are we really going for 5:30?
I was joking with her.
Oh, are we doing it during the day?
Whatever works. I can't do midday on Thursday, but I can do an evening for sure. Debbie, can you do it?
I don't bring my phone with me, so I don't have my calendar.
It's okay for 1 to 4. Okay, well, let's tentatively say the 31st. I can send out a doodle.
At 6?
Yep.
Louisville Library?
No, I will send you the address. It's my husband's business. He has a conference room. We can post it. It's a public place. If people want to come in, they can come, but it's really our training. Okay, so work plan is where we,
on the
sorry,
bottom.
I moved around.
Just hit the Word document.
Okay. So the things that I was thinking about, I feel like it's pretty close. Patrick, utility box covers, did you hear anything? Do we know?
Yeah, so I've emailed Excel. Obviously, I haven't gotten anything back from Excel. And that was actually a recommendation from Matt Magley. Just because I think there was maybe a preference from Alex and Matt to try to do the utility boxes as opposed to the
Signal boxes.
The signal boxes. We're not getting very far. I don't know that we're going to get a yes. So I think that the signal boxes is maybe the direction that we start to look, just because I don't want to hold the process up waiting for an Excel response. And even if we get that Excel response, I don't think it's going to be the response we want.
Okay.
Where are you guys on the agenda?
So work plan.
Work plan, 5C. And the work plan is up on the board behind you, and I asked a question about
I pulled up the CAPS committee work plan.
the utility box covers, because it's going
So
to the
second quarter, number 3.
Yeah. And I looked at a little bit more the storm drain, when you had sent that as an initial idea. And the thought I have about that is it would be an interesting project to maybe do with ACES.
Keep it clean.
If we wanted to. So I don't know how we word the third pop-up to cover, as many bases as possible, so that we don't have to hold off on getting our work plan finalized.
I think
utility box covers.
Well, I think even getting it approved in this format, I mean, because ultimately, once we know what we're going to paint, when we're going to paint it, we'll have you guys come back to the board anyway. Or at least we'll capture it in the notes and give the board the heads up. So I think, if you wanted to, you could do utility / storm drain / signal box, but I think that, I think that this covers it pretty well.
Okay.
And you guys, if I remember, you guys presented the concept last year in front of the board anyway, and it got some positive. So I think that the wording here is probably fine.
Okay. You have a question?
Nope.
Okay.
Just out of order.
Then the other, I just didn't know if we wanted to unveiling of Dow's work. I mean, this is our work plan, so do we want it to be a little more formal in the wording? Like the Dow Bloomberg sculpture, is that for a triptych, or is it okay to leave it? So,
I think it's
okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right.
You're just nitpicking verbiage for the finalization. Is that what we're doing right now? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been pretty close. And then this fourth quarter, I was thinking, maybe it's just review pop-up events and explore options for new events, because we'll have done our pop-ups. We aren't necessarily looking to do new events. So the explore seems secondary, but that was just how I was feeling.
Review and plan new ones if they were a bust.
Right.
Update this, because I have Town of Superior CAPS Committee 2019 work plan. And 4, there's actually an A under, there must have been an updated version of it, because I actually went to the website and pulled this up.
This is what was linked to the agenda, the one that we're looking at right
Way
now.
off. We're looking at 2 different copies.
Well, it's similar. Mine is Town of Superior CAPS Committee 2019 work plan.
It's definitely different because this one's a different font,
Yeah,
but I don't know when or the changes.
similar.
You found a rabbit hole.
Where did
So
you
the one that will be submitted to the board is,
That's the one that's in the...
yep, and that should be only a font change.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys okay if we just, I know it seems a little nitpicky, but if we just move that and say review pop-up events and explore, because I think review is the main component.
So can changes still be made? Because I know this already went to the board.
Well, so I think there'll need to be an acknowledgement that like some semantics were changed.
Because they get their packet.
Because they've got their packet.
Earlier.
I think that there's going to be some wordsmithing anyway. But
Well, we're not really changing.
yeah, and maybe that's something is the board liaisons. You guys can
Call
bring
it
up.
out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Possible. So I don't even know.
And then typically what'll happen is if you guys have red lines even that night, I'll be kind of in the back doing the red line with Matt.
Sure.
And then you'll actually see those one more time in their final
Oh, yeah.
form. So I'll actually go through and these will have the word draft on the top and then we'll PDF them and put Phyllis's kind of stamp on the bottom.
Well, because
Okay.
I had sent you the email, Gerald, about my questions about the artist registry we talked about last time, and you were going to have some town staff person start it.
So,
And you said it was in the third quarter.
Yeah, it is.
So where is the?
Complete wireframe design and setup for Superior Cultural Arts Registry.
Okay. That's in the third quarter. They're not doing it until the third quarter. Okay.
Well, the thing with all these work plans is everything gets front-loaded in first quarter or second quarter, and so something has to give in terms of, something has to hit into third quarter. I mean, I think it would be great if we worked on it ahead of time, and we're executing the registry then, but.
Well, but now it explains it because my work plan is different from yours, and when you said to me, the artist registry is in the third quarter, and it's not on the third quarter in this one.
I'm
Now it
thinking
makes
that we
sense.
actually made some red line versions as a group probably 2 meetings ago. So depending on,
I don't know.
because if you guys remember, we changed the word to wireframe.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
that
now
was
at
actually,
least it's
yeah,
making
so
sense.
I think
Okay.
we're all talking
Okay.
speaking the same language. It was just a format change.
Okay.
Okay. Well, and now that I know that this is already gone, I won't. The other things I had, I was just checking with you about the signal boxes, design of prairie dogs. I was going to change a word, but it's not. We can leave it as is. And I did want to mention that I found a possibility for an education conference. The Colorado Creative Industries has a summit in Salida, May 16th and 17th, which might be interesting to consider. May 16th and 17th, and it's called the Colorado Creative Industries. They have a summit, and there's a lot of great placemaking and artist stuff. So you can go to Creative Industries.
Thank you. That's what I thought you said, but
Salida?
In Salida.
Salida, where is that?
It's south. Do you know where Buena Vista is?
Not really. It's like south of Breckenridge, kind of.
Oh, okay. In the mountains. Yes, it's
West of the Springs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
right in the mountains, right by Mount Princeton and the
Yeah, Mount Princeton Hot
Mount
Springs.
Harbor. Those, it's a really cool town, actually.
Okay.
Okay, so does anyone else have any thoughts on the work plan? Are we good? I see the lights.
it's good to me.
Belinda, you good?
We did compare that to, we have 5E, but we've already got the big reveal, and that's gonna be down, right, that's down,
Oh, yeah, the hard hat part, yeah.
hard hat, and then the main part has a pop-up, traffic signals like utilities, prairie dogs, and then the Wildflower Park is the cultural component. Oh, the Cold Creek corridor art is not.
Well, I don't know how much we can actually, I mean, Cold Creek corridor is already, the design's been
Right.
done.
Yeah.
All right, So maybe not think Coal Creek Corridor, but think Parks 1 and 2.
Okay.
So Parks 1 and 2, which will actually be the more usable features of what's down there. So right now we're creating what's more the ecosystem, right? Like we're going to make the next 100 years ecosystem healthy. That's what you're seeing now. In the future, you'll have the park space. The park space, we had those pre-dedicated spots for monumentation sign and artwork.
And I think what Melinda was thinking about was we had talked about areas where you could do like plein air painting and things like that, like having concrete easels put up.
Okay.
Is that what you were thinking?
Right, and then, our goal is to have kind of permanent pedestals for temporary exhibits, right? So concrete padding.
And we do have those in the parks, just not in the
corridor.
Yeah.
So if that's something that can be.
Okay, so maybe that's just not, it's, instead of corridor art, it's for the parks.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. Any last thoughts on the work plan?
I have a Robert's Rules of Order problem with the number 4 in the second quarter, because anytime that there's like just one, like an A, you know what I mean?
That's not a Robert's Rules of Orders, that's English.
Okay, it's English, but so maybe the number 4 subject is something like finalization of Dow plans, and under that, it's unveiling is A and determination of landscape after installation is B. Whenever there's, like a subject like that, there needs to be an A and a B.
Yeah, you can't have one without a 2, you can't have an A without a B.
How about grand unveiling of public sculpture? Then that's general topic.
I think you guys are going to be doing a lot of work related to Dow in terms of communicating. We're going to lean on you guys for how it gets the messaging to the community, bragging about all the great work that there's going to be 19 bullets there. So if you don't like the aesthetics of an A and B,
Do we have,
we can fix it.
like his, scheduling his talks?
That's what, so up here, plan for Dow Bloomberg related events, first quarter. So that's really, this is really the execution of it.
The actual.
Maybe you could put, I don't know, there still needs to be a B.
So does the determination of landscape, we're not doing that until after we install it?
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my recommendation for committees is, remember what the intent of the document is to give the board a general sense of what you're going to be working on. I wouldn't worry about getting too much into the weeds, Daryl. To your point earlier, these things kind of move and change quite a bit. So if you want to do some wordsmithing, yes, the board has it. What my thought is we hit save on this one and we give the board the updated version before Monday. But I wouldn't get too caught up in some of this. And then I actually do have Dow coming out to Colorado the middle to end of February.
Oh, good.
I'm trying to time that with your meeting next month.
Because then that can fall into planning for related events.
Yeah, so I think as long as you guys feel comfortable with what the gist is and you feel like the elected officials are going to understand it.
Well, you have a better perspective of that, because do the trustees look and they say, well, we have this huge sculpture reveal and there's all these things that are attached to it. Are you comfortable
Like where
that
we've
they're
got-
in there somewhere and that we're not forgetting them and we're handling them? I think
It's a really good question. Where we've gotten tripped up in the past is with too much detail, and so I think Patrick's guidance is really good. In a work plan, less is more.
Okay.
So, frankly,
Just so the Board of Trustees knows that
right.
we're talking about it,
We
we're
know how
doing it,
busy
we've
you are.
scheduled it, we know that we haven't abandoned it.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with artists.
Well, and actually, to Kevin's point, we have done presentations to the board in the past for our various work item components. I mean, that's just what we've done. So this is the outline.
Okay, just so the Trustees are good.
This is
Okay.
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
you could have stopped 6 versions ago and it would have been better than anybody else's. This is great.
And then Debbie, know that, so a couple things almost always happen every week behind the scenes is one, we give the board a pretty thorough written update on things that are coming up. And then these guys always have the opportunity to recap what we talked about here. So somewhere in there, normally the translation stays pretty consistent.
Okay.
So, and if it strays
Just because it's such a big
too far off, then as the staff liaison, we'll make sure that those communications get kind of buttoned up.
Just looking at the one area that I would predict, and I don't want to derail it, that we may get questions about is the main event location. So,
Well,
Why
and
would you get
it's not a
questions?
final location, so.
but when you say location, marketplace, it feels final, and that's the,
Well, that part I would say is, I mean, we feel pretty certain that that's where we'd like to have it for this year, where in the marketplace is undetermined, I guess.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I have no objection if I was just trying to predict where somebody might ask a question to be, main event, marketplace, why not Main Street, why not somewhere else? I think that could be a question.
Yeah, and that's certainly what we could, be available to answer that question, and we have the answer
Yep.
for it. So, all right, cool. Okay, so can you live without a B?
Yeah.
Great.
As a former English teacher,
I
it's
did.
hard, but okay.
Yeah, just for you.
I did. Okay, so now on to our.
Does it have to be voted on?
You guys have already voted on it.
We
Okay.
did this, yeah. Okay, so now on to 5D, RFP for Cultural Arts Master Plan Consultant. Patrick?
Yeah, so I'll actually kind of give you, Daryl, if it's okay with you, I'll also give an update right now on the new hire.
Yeah,
The two-
absolutely.
The
No, yeah.
the two tied together. So the individual that we hired for the cultural arts and events position is a gal named Dina Miller. It looks like Deanna, but it's pronounced Dina.
Okay.
She has a really, really extensive background in public art. There were 2 candidates that had this kind of public background. Everybody else kind of had this private, nonprofit. She worked for several years with the city of Aurora before opening her own consulting firm, but came to kind of miss that point of when you get to build something really cool and then stick around and see it instead of just moving on to the next project. So one of the things that she's really well versed in and is what I think probably one of the best, because we were looking at her services prior to hiring her, was writing the master plan. I'm not saying that she will write the master plan, but I think using her guidance, and actually I believe some of the examples that you actually have in there were her master plans, which I think will help. She's also got a ton of great contacts based upon what you guys want to see in that master plan, size, scope, and results. When we put that RFP out, she's already got some targeted firms that she knows will probably apply that would be more appropriate. One of the first things she said to me is, she said, you're inevitable, you're going to get somebody from California who's going to want to charge you $90,000 for it, and you're going to use 4 pages out of it. Or you may get somebody who's in Colorado who's going to write you more like Vail, which was 16 pages packed full of really great information. So I know we're getting close, but I feel a whole lot more confident with her on board. And I think she's somebody that could really help far more than I can, the dialogue about what the RFPs look like. I told her about our discussions of the must-haves, which if we get into that tonight, I think that's great. And I'd also encourage you to probably flesh that out at next month's meeting, because she'll be with me at that meeting as well.
Oh, that's when she's starting?
Yeah, I'm probably going to stick around for the first several months, just as she's kind of learning the nuances of the town. But she was actually somebody that we were already looking at to write the master plan, or at least send the bid document to. So
her first introduction to us will be the February meeting?
I've asked her to attend, so her first day with us will be the 31st.
Oh, okay.
Is she going to be at the February 2nd?
She is going to be at the February 2nd.
Okay.
And I am probably going to set up a coffee that Friday before for whoever wants to come over and meet her. That way, we aren't doing the first official introduction at a formal training
Kate,
setting.
whatever, okay.
So February 1st would be
Yeah.
a coffee.
Do coffee,
Yeah.
okay.
And right now, I was thinking Sticks, but I don't know. If you guys don't want to do Sticks, we can do Panera or somewhere else. I'm lazy because I get to walk down the hall, but if you guys want, we can obviously do it wherever.
Does she know about the second Thursday meeting? Or is
It's
she?
not,
No,
it's
and
not
I-
a required meeting.
Yeah,
It's not
okay.
something that.
So she is aware of it. I have not.
But she
no.
doesn't need to attend? Okay.
She's watched several of the meetings, so she may know some already by name just because I think as she was getting up to speed on the processes, she wanted to get to know everybody.
So her dad knows.
Yeah, right.
Have to start wearing our badges
Yeah.
again.
She's worked with Dow before on several projects, which is great. So I feel comfortable about that.
That's just what I was going to ask is as an art consultant, and one of the things that you said in her qualifications, if I'm not hearing things, was art consultant. And I thought immediately, well, she would be someone then could network with Dow on the way to, prepare the public and
Yeah.
make a presentation. Now, he's coming in when this spring?
So we're going to go visit him either next week or the following week. And then I need him to come out here in like a couple weeks later, end of February, so we can talk about the logistics of exactly how we're going to get this installed in the roundabout. And I've tried to schedule around his schedule so he could be available for this meeting, the February meeting.
I wonder if there's any chance of doing a public information component for when he comes here in February.
We could. We also have him on the hook to come out one more time.
Oh, okay.
So this was more of a nuts and bolts, but I do want him to come and give you guys an update if the timing works. And then he's going to come out again on those kind of the Dow unveiling events that you talked about and make himself available for those as well. And whatever the grand unveiling looks like, he'll obviously be here for that. So I would imagine probably 3 trips for him and then 1 for us out there.
And the one for you up there, you said we were going. Who's going?
It'll be myself and then Dina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's already on board.
Yeah, we've officially, unofficially, we've discussed the project at length.
Great.
And obviously, she's had this great background with Dow before. So there was some synergies there, and it's a whole lot easier for me just to let those 2 experts talk shop, and I can coordinate other stuff. Yeah, I can coordinate rocks and landscaping.
Can you touch a little bit of exactly what her job description is and what our ongoing relationship will
All right, so first and foremost, well, a lot like Katie, we brought her on to do the community events and then be the liaison for this group. And then as that kind of fleshed out, this group has kind of gained a little bit more prominence. So we kind of flipped it and said, well, maybe it's equal parts, because I still need somebody to do Bike to Work Day, Arbor Day, Chili Fest, 4th of July, all the other stuff, all the marketing, which we do internally for Parks and Rec. And then also kind of up the A game of this group. Not that it wasn't there, but admittedly, you didn't have a staff liaison who had a background in that, either in Katie or myself. So, when we saw the board approve that budget, we said, well, this, I think, is obviously the future. So I think her role with you guys will be a lot like what mine is with ProStack, where it's, kind of that back and forth communication between your creative ideas as a committee, us as town staff, and then making sure that the board's aware of it. And she's got these added bonuses of having written master plans, where in the past we would just hire a consultant who would even tell us how to write the RFP sometimes. I think we get to leapfrog some of those processes.
So she'll be instrumental in implementing our ideas, and because of her experience, she can actually help us work through our ideas to choose the ones that will be most effectively implemented.
Yeah, and I think she's got this great background of what has worked and what hasn't worked.
Oh, great.
And being able to draw from, actually, one of the things we've already talked about is she did a great piece of art, or she coordinated the artist who did a whole interpretive walk through the city of Lakewood, where a huge section of their trail became this piece of artwork, right? And that's something, obviously, I think we would be interested in town. So having done that project or having written the master plan, you know, it'd be a little bit like me being able to advise on the Parks and Rec master plan. I've seen it, I've been a part of it. We just have kind of the artist version now.
Yeah.
Who knows this world far better than I do.
So we had talked about having a separate consultant for the writing the master plan, but it sounds like maybe this woman can do that.
Well, so here's my only hesitation is I also need to get her quickly up to speed on running the town's events. But what I think she can do is probably expedite the RFP process, where if it were me, you're probably going to get the town's form template for an RFP process. I think being able to kind of fast track that and write it, where for me it would probably take me several weeks to write it and research it. My guess is she already has examples saying this is an effective RFP master plan. Put that out to bid and then help review that with you guys. My thought about her writing it is it might be a little bit too much too soon to meet the timeline you need for the document and the timeline I'm going to need to make sure that we can pull off the town events.
Well, and plus we have all these events. I mean, because we're not just advising, we're actually doing.
Yeah.
You know, our committee is a little bit different than other committees, and so we need her help in these pop-up events.
And I will say, I think fairly confidently, when we were talking about contracting out for the pop-up events, I don't think you guys would need to do that. I think with her expertise and the horsepower we now have in the pros department, that I feel comfortable that we could pull those off without going to an outside person. So I do think master plan, the written document, we outsource, and then the pop-ups, I think we take a swing at doing those in-house with Dina and you guys as the lead, with us on the back end as the horsepower.
And maybe what she can do is help us save some money in the whole process, because the money is budgeted for that, and maybe her knowing people and having connections and a much better understanding of how it works will be quicker.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I had her on the phone with Dow for about 10 minutes, and I think that they had already figured out how to, shave $20-some thousand off of the plan that we had come up with, just because they were both starting to speak the same language, where a lot of times I'll have to go find somebody who can help me talk art to an artist. That's not my background. And I think that can apply to the master plan, as well. And I think we can get a more effective document that meets what you guys want without probably the length of time that it would have taken for one of us to run the process.
And I'm assuming with her governmental work, she can, when we talked about her goals and master plan, that she can work with us on funding and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you guys are bringing the recommendations to the board and the board says, yes, this is the direction we want the manager and staff to go, totally.
Because that was one of the big things we talked about. Okay, great, you have all these ideas, but how are you going to make them happen?
Now what?
Yeah, now what?
Yeah, now what?
Absolutely.
Next steps.
Yeah.
Well, great. I can't wait to meet her. Very
Yeah,
excited.
I'm very excited.
Okay, that's 5D. Now on to 5E, project teams. Identify any items that need special working groups. We were just talking about how what's sort of fleshed out with the committee is that everybody wants to be involved, and so the smaller groups weren't really happening, but we'd like the person to sort of take lead. And anybody that wants to be a part of or not be a part of it, one of the other groups doesn't have to be, but that way somebody's not ultimately responsible, but they're taking the lead. I mean, I think ideally they would keep our papers board going, so if we wanted to continue with the master plan, here's your board for...
Yeah. Actually, you didn't put master plan on here. Right. It says under project teams, identify, okay.
Well, I think that we're all doing the master plan,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, I just use that as an example.
Okay.
I assume we all want to be involved in the master planning.
that just probably might be on hold for a while until we get Dean on board, and then we start doing the RFP, so she'll let us know, presumably, when we need to, what we need to do, if we need to do something, and then when we get the consultant, then we'll really be involved. Isn't that what you kind of assume the process to be? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, in the meantime, we have some party planning to do.
Yeah. So is anyone interested in being the lead on the Hard Hat Big Reveal Party with Dow?
Well, I think that Karen was doing that, wasn't she? We're missing a board. How do we get our new board member?
We'll just sign her up. She's not here.
But I mean, we're missing.
We're down a person.
We're down a
so we have
person.
to advertise.
Okay. When
I
does
know.
that happen?
I think it's already being advertised.
Yeah, and actually, I'll have to, don't know that I've looked at which committee. I've got a couple of applications that Karen told me came in.
Okay.
And I think one of them may be
For CAPS.
CAPS.
So one thought I had too about that, just an overarching idea, is having alternates. I mean, I know there was this idea at one point that we had those twice yearly open houses, but I was just talking to a resident today, and she's like, oh yeah, I want to be involved in this, but I don't want to be on the committee. And I like the idea of alternate, because then you are sort of in the wings, but you're part of the committee, you're involved in the process, but you're not...
A voting member.
Yeah, you're not a voting member, and it's just a way to add, like you could, Sandy, you could be an alternate. It's just a way to add depth to our committee that we need, because we are a working committee.
Yeah, just the mechanics of that could be a little challenging thinking about it. But just because are you opening up the code to say these committees may have an alternate, and is that something that other committees will have? I think what I love about this committee is that you're sitting around the table and you're exchanging ideas, and those committee members, I mean, I know we have to have some structure, but the alternate that might be participating at this table and commenting with, an appropriate public comment and waiting for the green card, not the red card. You can't get somebody who's, gonna not on the committee and they're dominating the discussion, but I'm with you. It's like, I don't know exactly how, I want to get more members of the community engaged, yet at the same time, if you don't have members of a committee that are accountable.
I wonder if there's a way to almost set up a separate call for volunteers based on the project.
Right. I think
Have Kevin on our, you know what I mean?
Well, and that's what Kevin and I are hoping to talk about tomorrow, actually. He called me and
well, there you go. You guys are on it.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe that's because we have run into this with the Historic Commission, because there's two who actually don't serve on the committee.
But they do help with the museum.
Yeah, they help, but it has gotten a little bit sticky, because I think that sometimes they feel strongly about a certain item, and that we kind of have to be the one that says, well, we appreciate it, but you're not actually part of the committee.
Yeah.
So maybe just running it through that different channel makes sense.
Good idea.
Through the volunteers for the events,
Right, the breakout.
to bring people in to be inclusive.
And then you guys kind of, as Daryl, as you're saying, if you're already meeting with Kevin, then yeah, you guys can kind of guide what that looks like, and then we can help with the execution and the communication, make sure that it meets what you guys want.
Okay.
Good idea.
All right, so we signed Karen up for Hard Hat Big Reveal Party. But she's not here. Main event parties.
That's me.
Pop-up traffic signals or culverts.
That's me.
That's you, isn't it? Prairie dogs, Jane. Sorry, Jane, I went and got some info, but I'll share it with you. It's actually pretty amazing how reasonably priced our...
So can we review what it means? Like, I just raised my hand for the utility box. Right? What does that mean?
You're going to be out there painting them all.
That's right. What did I just find out?
In your shirt and your little hat.
So, I mean, does that mean that I maintain the utility box privilege document?
Yeah, I would say, that's what I think, that's sort of your...
Okay, right. So I do the research and I put it in a public space so that we can all look and you can all add your comments. And then during mid-month or your agenda items, I update people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Starting right away?
Starting now. After we have our training.
Starting yesterday.
Okay, yeah, after we know how to do it.
And we'll figure out your comfort level and where you are. You know, if you want to type up an email and send it and then that gets put in, that's another way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to work.
Another question.
Yes.
Because a lot of these, you know, for example, I sent the City of Greeley information to you, but I am co-chair, so, you know, we don't want everyone like sending you questions. So how do we, like, if you really have questions about your project that need staff input, what does that mean for a lead if you're not us? Or it has to go through us and then we contact?
Well, I mean, I know that we've been trying to be very careful. You know, that was our first year of like, we don't want to overwhelm. But you know what? I think that we've proven ourselves, and that as long as we're not overutilizing somebody's email, if we have legitimate questions and concerns, I think it's okay to.
Well, for instance, like the main event, I'm assuming that Dina will really truly be up here. And if I have a question about something specific, before we always made sure that, for instance, Sandy, when she was a liaison, Sandy was never in the email. It always went from me to you, to Sandy.
Right.
So we're kind of loosening that up a little bit.
Well, no, it was more, we didn't work directly with the liaisons, we worked with staff more, and it was more, we always tried to filter so we weren't overwhelming staff.
Oh, right. Well, I guess we'll have to talk to Dina and figure out how she wants it.
So just a little bit of, you guys are going to get the sneak peek again of the second. So typically what I have, so you guys know we have 6 advisory committees just in our department. And what I like to do is have a person assigned to each, and then I have those individuals say, I need you to at least dedicate 1 to 2 hours a week specific to your committee work. And we found that works. What tends to get a little bit frustrating on our side is if you guys aren't consistent as a group. So I think having these dialogues and coming up with exactly what you have your question, just like you did. You brought Alex and I a very specific question. We have no problem going out and finding the answer and then communicating that back once we have it. Where it gets daunting is, one, if one person asks a question and then you guys say, well, I was copied on it, but I actually don't think that was the question. And then at some point, we have to do the rest of what our job is. So if you can identify the one-point person and then create that consistency, I think that helps a ton. And then the other thing that is important to remember is, you know, within reason, our work plans are directed by Matt and the board. So if you guys go too far down the path of saying, staff, we need you to work on this, you need you to work on this, if it's not really lining up at the time with what Matt and the board has us working on, you just have to be patient that we're not going to work on it right away.
Or can you just tell us?
Oh, yeah.
Can you wait 2 weeks on that?
Yeah.
Well, because if you balance that with not burning you and be really organized and coordinated, the flip side of that is if you're on one of these committees and you're really truly gathering, doing everything, organizing it, but maybe that's not communicating from whoever, you know, is kind of taking a lead to you or the appropriate person. I mean, there's a balance there. Too much information for you, but the person who might be the lead is just taking it and running with it, and all of a sudden, trustees go, "What?" So,
which I think is why we tried to narrow the funnel a little bit so we weren't overwhelming. And it's not a bad way to go. I mean, I don't mind being an email filter and deciding whether it's, you know, worthy of, not worthy.
And it's important for us to empower you guys to do what the committee was tasked with doing. You know, the staff liaison role is to answer technical questions or help align the board's schedule and Matt's schedule with your schedule, or say, hey, you know what, Excel is really not working with us. A lot of times when we do push back, we'll push back on the items and say, well, this was kind of a committee-driven idea. we think that the committee should roll with it. Those of you who've been to National Trails Day is a perfect example. The OSAC wanted to host an event. We were already tapped out on events. We said we will provide you these logistics. You run with it, right? And they've run with it, just like what you guys did with the crosswalk. So I think as long as you can bring a consolidated question that has some meaning behind it, we're always happy to respond and get those right back out.
And are we suggesting a point person to do that? One individual that makes that question to you, or whomever has?
No, I think the approach that you guys have, if you're starting to identify, I mean, look, all these, I'm assuming all these activities 1 through 6 don't happen at the same time. So,
I mean, they're all new. A lot of it is figuring out and planning. And so I think there are going to be more questions this year than next year.
I think you guys are going down the right path of saying these are the individual point people or person for, caring for Hard Hat and Big Reveal. All of a sudden, if we start getting emails from Melinda not copying anybody saying, what's going on with the Hard Hat? Yeah. We'll put a halt to it and say, let's circle the wagons again. Let's get a little bit more consistent, and then we'll get this rolling.
Does that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that just, no one's going, making a fast and run around what's already happened.
And then anytime on the email communication, this is whether it's with us or with each other, decision points should always be made in this meeting. Mm-hmm. That way, you can do some level of prep, you can do some level of dialogue. But if you find at any point, and I tell this to all the committees, if you find at any point where you're starting to kind of do a little bit of tit for tat, or you're starting to show opposing ideas on something, typically, if staff's not on it, the chair or the co-chair, vice chair will say, hey, let's just add this for an early discussion item in our next meeting and keep it offline.
So can I put forth a thing that's been a problem or confusing to this group, to all groups that I served on? When, let's say, somebody's in charge of the Prairie Dog Project, and let's say Lafayette's done a similar project, can the person who's doing the Prairie Dog Project go to that staff member, call that staff member in Lafayette and get all the scoop from them? Or does staff prefer that when it involves another municipality, that a staff member make that?
As long as, at least speaking for my staff and the committees that we have, as long as we know, because what will happen is that staff person is going to contact us regardless and ask for permission and say, hey, was this okay? And ironically enough, that happened on OSAC this week. Somebody went and chatted with Boulder County, or City and County of Broomfield, and it somehow got elevated to their staff level. And it was like, oh, wait, we need to take several steps back. This isn't actually the direction that we're going. So as long as you guys are communicating, saying, hey, Patrick, I'd like to talk to so-and-so, and then you let them know, hey, I've already run it by our staff liaison, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. Any other communication questions? Or Debbie is named the dancing part? No, are you?
Yeah, remember, I don't do art. Do I need to say these, speaking of which?
No, those were before I found paper or is it called paper? Paper. Dropbox paper, because I was just thinking it was a great way to just start getting our ideas down, and now that we have some actual planning documents, I think.
We don't need to fill these out. Okay.
No. Does anyone want to take lead on dance in the park? Dances with Wolves? We could combine it with the coyote tour and their.
What coyote?
They do it, or how to live with coyotes.
Yeah. How to live with, we need how to live with elk in our backyard.
Yeah, that's a very specific concern.
And then Coal Creek Corridor Art, which we really should relabel to Parks 1 and 2.
Daryl, quick update on that item. I received an email from Bill Jenks either yesterday or today about Block 25 artwork. So as soon as we have that conversation with him, then that will, so in my mind, if you guys are looking for a actionable art item this year, that will probably be the most recent opportunity.
So block 25 is Park 1 and 2?
No, that's Remington.
Yeah, so block 25 is one of the residential developments that's going on in Town Center. I just think Parks 1 and 2 is probably going to be a little ways out.
Oh, okay.
And I apologize for not emailing that to you. I just got it that they're looking to do art on block 25 and 26.
Did he specify anything at all about cost or what it is
No,
they
not at all.
wanted? Okay.
Is it included in what Ranch Capital originally?
I believe so.
So it's umbrellaed under that amount.
Yeah, kind of similar to what, remember when we chatted with Superior Shores? They said, we've got a space, we've got X amount of dollars, we want your input. If I had to kind of project ahead a little bit, I think that's what this dialogue will be.
Okay.
Was block 25 what was just passed at the Planning Commission just looked at? Okay. Yeah, and I think that the whole, I don't know if you were in, no, I think it was one of our off meetings, but we were talking about this idea where we don't want to miss opportunities for art in town anymore. So the idea of art before you dig was this slogan we came up with.
That's great.
The idea is, every time Bob goes to a planning commission meeting and I'm like, okay, so just when you're there, remember to ask. And each time that has come up, it has moved forward in the idea, and most of the people that are developers are open to that idea. So.
Do we have a way to promote that? The art before you dig? I love that logo, by the way.
If Bob brought it up at PC, I'll chat with Steven.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that, it came up in our off meeting because of the skate park, right? How cool would it have been to do some, hey, donate your old skateboards and,
Sure.
To do some skateboard bench or something. It's, we have too much on the committee has too much on its plate to do now, but if that conversation had occurred a year ago, that could have been something.
But it's still an area of opportunity. I don't think it's entirely missed. And again, it's not necessarily this year, but that's one of the folder files that I have as areas of opportunity. Every single place that we think there could be some component of art or creativity.
Right.
We don't want to miss any more opportunities. So art before you dig is the.
And so bring it before the Planning Commission, kind of have that.
Or just
Is there some way to get it out to the other committees?
everything. It's not just planning commission, because the skate park, for example, didn't go to planning commission.
Right, right. So, it seems like all the other advisory committees,
That's
everything.
part of what the master plan, the idea also behind the master plan, if it becomes adopted, that
have to meet
component
those.
is part of it. Like
Well, it's something that we can certainly bring up in the training.
Well, I would say your art master plan is probably where the art before you dig can, and then and then and then we can rely on guys like Stephen and Martin at the kind of FTP new development level to make sure that that's a concept that's floated there.
Yeah, and it's just more like, it's just a reminder. It's like the call before you dig, like if we're going to be digging up dirt somewhere, let's add some art to it in some way.
So that, to my mind, that seems like a must-have. That seems like probably one of the umbrella under which we function is to know where it is that things are going to happen. So that then would be incorporated, since I feel strongly, as I'm sure others do, a comment on our master plan. Okay.
Yeah, there might even be a section where it's if you look at the bottom of our work plan, it even says, as directed by the board, review and respond to development proposals from a placemaking perspective. So that's sort of a component of that as well. And this is just a catchy little reminder.
So is this opportunity at Block 25, is that going to be another opportunity for us to help choose a public sculpture, like a big thing?
Well, I don't want to oversell it. My guess is that there's some kind of dedicated space over there. They have an open space or an outlot that they'd like to see something on it.
2 outlots. I
It's
think.
either
There's a
D or
corner.
C, you know, and my thought was it's maybe that corner one.
There is a corner outlot that would be
It seems like we had a lot of good ones that were like, we kind of filed away when we were looking through.
Oh, we had a bunch.
Last time,
Yeah.
a bunch were like, well, that'd be great for another spot or something, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of the basis of the artist registry at this
different registry though.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's where I think this, again, if I'm kind of reading the tea leaves, that's where I think that's where this will end up.
That's great.
Okay. So the 5F, finalized recommendation for Shan Shan Trailhead, it is now due March 1st, but that doesn't mean if we have time, which it looks like we do, we can go ahead and look at and talk about the ideas for.
What do I do? If I want to put this
Take a
is,
picture of it, send it to
scan
me.
it, or you want me to take a picture?
Just take a picture of it and send it to me.
Okay.
Same thing, I have several. For the trailhead, scan it.
This is actually in Boulder, the meditating.
Meditation days, yes.
Yeah, it was actually
Just off of the corner of, is it Pearl and Folsom?
Oh, he was one of the artists, he did the wall too. He was one of the artists.
he did the wall.
He sent an application for the roundabout.
That's for Shan Shan. There's a trail in Boulder
Andy Duffer.
by Sanitas.
Okay, so that is gorgeous.
It's like a meditation maze.
Okay, so we could also, yeah, so we pass, nice for it.
And then also at the last meeting, I said I would check with the historical commission on the naming. They did not get to that in their meeting on Friday. So it's going to be on the next historical commission meeting, which will be.
So in a bizarre way, we're the Shan Shan.
Right. So remember we were saying how they're going to have the name and we want ours, like our work to go with the name theme, whatever that may be, but they hadn't talked about it at all yet.
I love the stuff on Pinterest. Is there some place to comment?
On Pinterest stuff? Well, you can, so I can share, I started a Shan Shan Trailhead idea. So this is the document that OSAC sent to us, and then they sent us this revised PDF. So here's the document that they sent us.
And we enter that we can access.
Yeah.
So you started a new file for the Shan Shan Trailhead.
I have one, and I'll share it with you guys. Again, I didn't want to overwhelm because I was sending it. I was allowing you guys to access all of the boards on Pinterest and all of these things. And I was like,
I just kept
I'm
clicking
thinking
accept.
yeah, overwhelmed.
We're passing those.
Well, this is for the meditation maze in Boulder.
So when I was looking over, you sent out another email recently,
He
kind
did.
of clarifying what they were asking for and what they were looking for. And it kind of clarified for me that they're not really looking for art for the trail. It's really just this trailhead area, you know? So I think that kind of narrows down some of our,
But that doesn't mean we can't propose that because they may have not thought of
I
that.
guess that's true. Yeah. Like things.
And whether or not, so Patrick, do you know if, because it's in cooperation with Boulder County, do we actually get to do anything on the trail?
Okay, so we pulled OSAC in to talk about the email because it caused quite a bit of confusion. Okay, so what's budgeted is $100,000 to build a trail. It was just going to be this kind of parking area.
Yeah.
That's on the town side of the property. Once we kind of, there's going to be about 70 feet where you're on the town side of the property before we intersect with the county's property.
Okay.
The reason why the county stays involved is this trailhead's in one of their management plans for their open space. So we do have to play by their rules, which when we got the trailhead approved, I had to go and do the dog and pony show with those guys. It had to be formally adopted by the county commissioners and added in a document. So the hesitation that we had when this was sent out was going too pie in the sky. Understanding one, the board and the county are kind of the end all and the be all in terms of making decisions, and two, there wasn't a budget established for this item. But I do want to capture the momentum of having the committees look at it. We actually asked those guys to give you a little bit more specifics instead of saying, hey, we want the feedback. Well, you're going to get a lot of feedback, and this one was already kind of signed, sealed, and delivered to the board. So I would say if there are maybe some small victories on this one, or some things that you think that could be incrementally added over the years.
Can you explain, first of all, you said you went to the Board of Trustees for Superior, or the Boulder County Board of Open Space?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yeah.
So that little lime green space, that's the only part that is under discussion.
And not even that. Actually,
No,
scroll one more.
The purple circle?
Keep scrolling.
Below
That.
Just that little round.
Just the
Parking lot.
So that's really saying that on this one, we're really not going to have a whole lot of input.
Well,
We could maybe have the art.
But we can-
Yeah,
right,
no, I
but
think that
art,
there's
we
still
can
room.
have that.
I think that there's still room for creativity.
Okay.
What I always get nervous about is when we start to set unrealistic expectations, which then we have to kind of back off of.
Gotcha.
So as long as everybody's playing by the same rules, that like you guys can provide input, there isn't a budget for it, and there's 2 layers of approval process to go, then I think we're all playing with the
So
same.
no money and 2 levels of approval.
Yeah, we now know that we can't think of, or more than likely, our ideas for sculptures along the trail. Maybe we focus on this archway entrance
Yes.
as our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick, have you seen the picture that's in front of you?
Yeah.
Gateway to Boulder County.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that a possibility?
I think it is. I think ultimately what we would do is we would just run it by, so for those of you familiar with the Colton Trailhead, that whole thing, we had to follow Boulder County's design.
how much was that?
I don't know.
I mean, we're talking 100,000 or 500,000?
For the overall trailhead?
Yes.
Well, those bathrooms, right, so those pitted restrooms alone are close to 300,000.
Oh my gosh, good to know.
So
Wow.
that trailhead in and of itself was probably close to $500,000.
Okay.
The parking, what you see here, this basic kind of parking infrastructure is going to be about $100,000.
Just dirt, I'm assuming? Gravel
You'll
or
have some
whatever.
curb and gutter and then like asphalt millings, and then the trail will just be a crusher pine trail.
So can you go back a picture?
Can.
Okay, so, for instance, so no art on the trail. And when I read through the email, which a little ironic, unrelated to art, but my daughter Katie, who lives right by Superior Elementary, she had a whole bunch of her friends over, and they went sledding over by El Dorado K8. And of course, kids sled on Purple Park. I'm scared to death somebody's going to go and end up in the lake there. But they were all, one of their huge things, and these are all like toddlers, elementary kids, about the sledding hill. But obviously that's not even going to happen. It cannot happen in this.
Well, so here's the question that I would have is, one, is that the intent of what we bought the open space for?
Okay.
So when I hear putting a sledding hill on open space, I hear developed park, right?
Right.
So I think we're starting to kind of give 2 mixed messages. You could do almost anything there. What I'm hoping you guys take away is the board has to approve it, we have to budget it, and Boulder County has to sign off on it. My issue with turning this into too formal of a recreational setting is I think it starts to deviate with what we've called our core values for purchasing open space. Mm-hmm. And Boulder County does have an easement, or they have a conservation easement over that sliver. See that kind of rectangular sliver? Mm-hmm. They participated in the purchase, so they do get to weigh in on what can and can't happen.
Goes there.
Yep. So.
That being said, let's just stick with our art.
Yeah, it just sounds like the arch is the only thing, and you can't, no meditation, no people. Now, another really, really quick question. I know that we have neighbors who have purchased chairs along the trail. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm assuming that would still go through Boulder County Open Space where you purchased the trail.
I think
the bench on the trail.
If we're on this side of the line, we're on this side of the green line in here. Mm-hmm. I think I just give those guys the courtesy heads up because I know that they're not going to have an issue with the bench. if we cross onto this side of the line, this isn't the town's property, so they may or may not want a bench on that property. In this area right here, the town has a greater level of control.
But if they want, because we actually had a discussion about this at our neighborhood board meeting, that if the trail, what's the one that goes right behind our neighborhood?
Mayhofer.
The Mayhofer, right. They have benches that they purchased on the trail.
Aaron Arsenault.
So if they're going to do that, they would probably do it somewhere behind our neighborhood or wherever, not here.
In that case.
Okay.
Well, there's a gray line. Let's you and I have a whole separate
No, that's
conversation.
okay, just so I can.
Because I could show you what areas of open space are under our control over there, as opposed to what level of boulders.
Okay. I mean, I can just tell them you have to. It's a Boulder County thing. It has nothing to do with this over here, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. So this side of the line, we have a little bit greater level of freedom on some items. If you guys are saying a bench or interpretive sign or some level of art that's a couple feet off the ground or some kind of stone monumentation, I think that's probably just a heads up from me to our colleagues in Boulder County, just so we're all communicating the same way. If you guys are talking about some type of arch that is at eye level with the tree that we have a nesting raptor up there, I'll probably reach out to those guys and say, hey, what are your thoughts on having a non-natural structure up there? If all of a sudden the committees come back and say, well, we really want a bathroom, I'll absolutely have to get that cleared by Boulder County.
Because the views right there where Meadowlark Trail, where it turns down Third or whatever, those are stunning views. I mean, they really are beautiful.
And the restroom conversations come up a lot, and we've heard a couple different things. We've heard people say, well, I don't want to drive up McCaslin and even see a restroom, right? Which is a valid concern. And then we have some people that say, well, it's absolutely necessary to alleviate people, going to town.
There is a lot of that, actually.
So, yeah.
On their bikes or they're walking or whatever, and you're out on the trail and you're like,
And then just so everybody knows, this trailhead means we get rid of this.
Right.
So this will actually turn before you get to the street.
So there won't be access out on trail?
There will, but you won't be able to park a car over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, whoa, then I have to go.
No, you foot traffic, yes. We'll put no parking signs down there. We'll probably landscape in that corner.
Okay.
And that was the trade-off with the county saying, with the county, a lot of times it's a give and take. So we get something if you eliminate another. So in this point, we added an access point to centralize use, and we eliminated one.
Okay. People cannot avoid the hill now.
It's actually not a bad hill. They did the switchback so well, so that the minute you start to get tired, you do the next.
Yeah, but they don't have any benches or resting places. I mean, they seriously don't. There's no benches or resting places or anything along there.
Tree stump.
There's not even tree stumps.
No tree stumps.
No tree stumps. No nothing.
Okay, so where do we want to go with the conversation? So this is the PDF that OSAC sent out, and I think we all got a copy of.
And again, these are amazing ideas, but basically none of them are not going to happen because it's just a parking lot.
I wouldn't say not going to happen. I would say
Well, maybe we could put an old cart.
just there's levels of approval that we're going to go through.
Because all these are fabulous ideas. When you look at the family sitting out, which the top of that trail there is stunning.
A picnic bench shouldn't be too much to ask.
Yeah, really, that's pretty mundane.
Yep, I think that's just a simple call saying, hey, I think we're going to, it's a use we know that they would likely support.
Yeah, so
Arch would be a great.
Yeah, so just the gateway, I think, idea is something that it could be done very simply, not expensively, and
organically, so
Yeah.
it goes it mixes with the open space.
But I love the play of our so maybe not the meditative Zen John Denver Rock Park. But then this is the Pinterest board, and unfortunately Pinterest isn't. So this is kind of a cool idea. If it'll
they did that down by Colorado Springs and Garden of the Gods, although it was really controversial.
But it's like a frame, so in a sense, It's a play on art in that, here's a frame, there's your picture. It's kind of a fun little thing. So there, something like that we could recommend in that first 70 feet.
Affordable.
Totally appropriate, right?
Very affordable. And not obtrusive at all.
And cheap.
And kind of, just a fun way to fun play on.
I would say, so you guys are on the Boulder County trail systems enough to know. Like, so the next time you're down at Colton, or the next time you guys are out and about hiking in the county, look at what those trailheads look like, and that'll give you a good sense, I think, of what you can and can't do. So this stuff, I think, is completely appropriate.
This is really fun. These are shovels.
Selfies.
Shovels. But for, a truly superior trail, these things are these interactive little
Scavenger hunt type thing.
Yeah, so it's a tactile component and an art component and a nature component that are simple. Again, maybe we can't do it for Shannon, but just ideas to think about for a future. Maybe even along our creek corridor.
Yeah, that looks
Well, that's a perfect place for a lot of
flat and the kids might be.
Yeah.
Go back up to the eagle.
And we do have those built into the park part of the project.
Where? What do you want?
That's right there.
This? Oh yeah, this is a similar, and if for some reason Pinterest isn't opening, are you guys blocking it, Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, so you'll have to go and look at our board later.
So as a committee, do we need to meet and discuss this to make sure we let OSAC know before March 1st?
That's a very cool way to name it.
Yeah, so look at this archway with the naming and some benches and a little spot. This one, it's this. So here's an interactive.
Very cool.
And actually, if you guys haven't been up to the cemetery, you should go up to the cemetery. From what I've been told, you can see all the way up to Wyoming and
to walk that cemetery is really cool.
How do you get up there?
You have to go to Sports Stable and then kind of wander around.
Helicopter.
Yeah. You get airlifted in.
Yeah. You can go park at our brand new park that's over there and walk up there.
Gotcha.
But this is a different view of this.
That is just
Because it is an open view space,
It has its own frame as well as arching. I mean, it's its own photograph.
And some sort of interpretive sign would be kind of nice in order to.
That is.
We just have to figure out how to fund it, whether it comes out of that OSAC budget, whether it comes out of CAP's budget.
Or just make a recommendation to the board.
That this really cool thing over here might cost $15,000 or whatever.
So OSAC's motivation for having it in by March is so we have time to thoroughly vet out a budget and then approach the board either this year, since it's not budgeted, or add it to next year's budget.
But you can see you can go a lot of different places. I mean, look at these little twig things. They're
Curious about that rock circle thing.
The rock circle. This one. We can't get there. Pinterest is shut down. You'll have to go. So it's in our CAPS board.
Yeah. Okay.
But you have. You can go and.
How's it held together?
I can't tell you.
Wired.
Magic.
Yeah.
Super
There we
glue.
go.
I think it is, I looked at it, I think it's like a really heavy, I don't know the word, but like bended coil of some kind.
All it takes is money.
Yeah. That's so great.
So here, this is like the little Breckenridge guy, but we don't have trees, so it wouldn't really.
But the little child with that is.
Yeah, isn't that great?
That was
So cute.
Somebody took their log pile and.
That's similar to there's statues like that all around Rock Creek of kids too.
Yeah, they are, which they're sort of generic, but it's really,
70 feet, that's it. Wow.
Yeah, but I think that this, something like this is sort of,
that is
right
stunning.
up
That should be- that's right up
our
our
alley in
alley.
terms of,
Really simple, so if you're driving up McCaslin, you're not too distracted.
And functional.
Yeah. Benches, signage.
and the gateway. Okay, so I can put a more formal, so actually what happens when we look at it? So we could I can pull out more specifically those archway components that we like, and there may be other.
Is there a source for that one?
There probably is. If for some reason I can't go, Pinterest is every time I click, we just sit here and go nowhere. So I'll have to look at it offline.
Daryl, feel free to take a set of those if you want.
Oh, did you take those pictures?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Thanks.
So where is that?
That's a little ways back from the corner of Pearl and Folsom in Boulder.
It might be Canyon and Folsom as you go into, what is the not-for-profit there on the corner?
Dairy?
No, it's the Nature Conservancy.
No.
No,
It's not there.
Yeah, okay, that's right. This is on
Across from this
Folsom, and this
ancient
is
tire
Pearl.
shop.
Yep.
Barnsley
And
Tire
there's
Shop.
Oh, yeah, no, that is the Nature Conservancy.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Yeah, the Nature Conservancy is on the other side of the park. So, yeah, it's the same.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Nature Conservancy is, their landscape
Yeah, you're
is
right.
beautiful.
But yeah, Barnsley Tire would be a good location for that. So you guys, any other thoughts? So we good with just recommending a similar archway, kind of something along that vein? We can
Yeah.
pull something together and look at it formally at our next meeting.
And the frame.
What? Oh, and the frame.
I like the idea of the frame. I
do too.
I know that the one in the Garden of the Gods,
So simple and
Why is it controversial?
Yeah, it's clever.
do you remember Patrick?
I remember.
Well, but first of all, it was red.
Oh, yeah, because it somehow objectifies nature through that window. But the problem is, when you look at it and you say, oh yeah, that would be a nice composition for painting. But then you get to walk around the back side of it and see the whole thing. And it's like walking into the painting. So I think the positive far outweighs the negative.
Yeah, that was kind of silly.
People will complain about anything.
Yeah, oh yes.
That was truly complain about anything.
You're
Yes.
objectifying the
Artwork goes up.
And the ironic thing is that they had a number of how many people had taken pictures in that picture frame, and it was thousands of people.
Well, and that's actually kind of a fun putting Superior on the map. You have our hashtag that goes with it, and it's kind of
Especially the
fun.
name of the park. You can have the name of the park at the bottom
At
of
the
the
bottom of the
frame
picture.
Fun little
with
branding
Superior,
component.
Colorado.
Yeah,
Like what we were
exactly.
talking
Yeah.
about with the stuff that was going to be done up on the Caslin and what is it?
Oh,
128 or
the town sign.
Oh, the town
signs
sign.
and so forth. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to do a little branding.
Oh, wait, Dare, where can we start talking about the possibility of communication with Brixmor about putting something in empty storefronts? Because I came up with a really good idea. I didn't know if that was a pop-up. So
We can put that on the next agenda for sure.
Yeah.
In the meantime, sort of
Brixmor.
keep the conversation going about, because obviously town staff should.
yeah, I'm just
Talk to
wondering if on the
Brixmor.
workload or something, if we have to, something. I mean, it's going to cost a little bit of money, but not a lot. If we get permission from Brixmor to do it.
I think, it could probably roll into the continuous improvement of the brand. And,
Okay.
clearly our brand is a bit one with vacancy. So
That's our brand.
I think if you help shift the brand and have some creative ideas, I wouldn't open up the work plan. I love
Yeah,
the idea,
okay.
but we can squeeze, your work plan's good. We can squeeze
Can I
anything.
tell them what I found?
Yeah.
I found they had taken all of these photographs of just people and they put them in the windows, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a local contest for photographs of what does Superior mean to you? People, places, and you blow them up, and they had them hanging in the windows of empty storefronts. And so so it actually bring people there because they get to see themselves or people that they know in the store, and then it would show the places, so it would sell Superior, and it'd be so cheap. And they had them on
Did you set up a board?
I think I just
Did you
I
just
think I
email
put it
me?
in the utilities because there wasn't a separate,
Utilities boxes.
they had other crazy ideas, but, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, here they are.
So we wouldn't be able, so those are just ideas of how people decorated, like the decals, just to make it kind of funny. That would be super cheap, but actually they did a lighted bike for Christmas. I mean, that would be super cheap too, like somebody's bike. But up there on the left is where I got the idea. I mean, it wouldn't have, that is a formal, right, gallery. So I just got the idea that's just people. And then there was another one of people just hanging things in the window.
Oh, yeah, this was fun, the owls in
Yeah.
the window.
But the photographs would be...
Monica, can we tie those into like the main event somehow?
Yeah.
Or can
Well,
you like jog my memory?
It could tie into the main event, and then if we got permission from Brixmor, they could be at the main event, and then they could go to the various
The wherever, and they could do this
To
when they're at the main
expand
event.
on when I was at the Denver Art Museum, we first opened up the big new, Linsky building. They had, and I don't know how you would do this, but they had a rolling video. You could go in, you could say, "Hi, I'm Jane Brill, and this is what I thought of when I walked into the new museum." So people loved it because it just went on a loop. And I don't know how you could, if you could do anything, in a window. I guess you couldn't really have anything with a voice on it, but is that what you're saying, Melinda? It's just pictures of people
But I think it's physical pictures.
Oh,
so it would cost almost nothing, and you don't want to cost for any money. So like the
Right.
decals would just you'd stick on the inside so they couldn't be peeled off. Or
What is that? That yellow thing? Is
those are
that-
decals.
Those are decals.
Oh, decals, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
And then I just thought the photographs, we just have them hanging on the
Right.
inside of the window. By, wire that used to
You know who does this? Is the Bean in Chicago. The Bean
That's right, yeah.
The Bean in downtown Chicago, they have these big water fountains on either side of it, and there's a way through the city of Chicago that you
Oh,
can...
the sculpture.
Yeah, well, the Bean's in the middle, but
Yeah.
and then they have this like pond or like where kids play. On either end are these big, water features, and there's people you can go and send the video to the city of Chicago or whatever, talking again in that way that this is what I love about Chicago.
And
We
the
have
image,
I'm sure this is like really expensive.
Well, we have the oral history, of Superior, which if you haven't listened to, there's some really cool things out there.
That's kind of
wow.
cool.
So-
Could you do?
Yes, absolutely. And then,
There's
Sorry,
so
but-
many
We are doing-
to the number of ideas.
so Parks and Rec this year was going to do your best Superior as our social media tagline for the year. So I think we should probably do some coordination. I don't know if you're going to add that to your, and our whole thought is having people take pictures of themselves, hopefully in a Parks and Recreation program or a community event, or a place that they felt like they were in their best Superior. And then our thought was doing something, whether it's on the website or it lives on Channel 8 or it becomes a Facebook something.
Or you can put it in an empty space at Brixmor.
Right, so why don't we do,
Yeah, people love that.
so would you mind adding that to your conversation with Kevin?
Absolutely, I love that idea.
Because what I don't want to do is get going down a path and you guys get going down a path and then we have a confusing.
No, if someone else is
But
Your best Superior, that's really community.
Well,
We'll buy tape.
And how nice that it can go through all the committees too, that it could really filter into all of our
The art stuff, kids doing art,
parks, Historic Commission, I mean, it really is.
music.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that, just there's kind of almost like an art walk kind of component to the main event, maybe, where there's different
Wait, let me put that down.
storefronts, either empty, or I'm sure some of the business owners too would love.
I'm sure the
to
preschool would
host
do it. I'll
something.
talk to her when I drop the
Like
kids
you
off.
could do like a progressive little,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
run over to Dixon and get your,
if there were
Progressive
kind
art
of
walk.
different shows that were going on at different locations, people could walk around and check it out. That sounds really fun.
Wait, so what are the images that are?
So we're talking about the main event and expanding the main event and having these other opportunities, and one of them might be a progressive art walk in some of the shops that are in the marketplace, if it's the final location.
I'm sure it is. I just, well,
No, I totally-
it's going to be a conversation. I think.
And absolutely, we've had the conversation for a while, and there's a good reason why we want it there, so.
So maybe are you doing the main events?
Yes.
So, okay, so going forward on, like, next month, so I should hopefully have an update about the utility boxes, right? So that would be on the agenda, and then Debbie would, right? So that we're all able to discuss the ideas, and then the lead would capture the ideas, filter through them, right? And then that's how we progress. But so that doesn't give the onus of planning
Claire
the whole
had a
thing
lot
to
of
one
ideas in Marketplace when we walked it to.
Right, and that just, for helping with the main event?
Right, and what we were including in when we walked the space. And
Well, do you guys want to partner together on it, or do you want to,
Yeah, I feel like we didn't really come to a consensus about, what would be the best location or.
well, I think we did think, well, my last recollection is we were waiting for the event planner, whoever
Right,
that was,
to walk it.
us, and hopefully
okay, yeah.
that's.
I think there was
That
some
might be
little
something you want to do with Dina.
nooks that we identified.
well, yeah, because Terry walked it too.
Yeah.
And Dina might have an idea of what is, just looking at it with fresh eyes, this is the cool space. Because
Well, and also from the
how
town
you could dress
perspective
it up.
of this
Right.
will work, this won't work.
Right.
And we have to get Brixmore to say it's okay too. That's the other. So yes, location is still
Yeah, but,
up in the air.
okay. If they're okay with it.
I mean,
That
I
would probably
can't
go through
imagine-
Dina, starting it.
Should probably have Manager Magley, have that conversation.
Okay. Because there were 3 pretty good options, actually, when we looked at them.
Okay. So we've got just 2 minutes. We already did the staff hire. We talked about Dow. We just have the dinner. Is there a date set for our dinner?
There's not. I chatted with Matt.
Okay.
I know Planning Commission has their dinner, I believe, this month. Matt's going to try to open one work session each month to get the committees in. So I'm working with him probably on, I guess it would be this, I think we're into the second meeting in February. But as you guys know, there's 6 committees to get through.
Yeah, but given this has to be sooner rather than later.
With caps.
Yeah. I mean, there's planning that's going to be done, I
There's a
don't want.
lot of stuff that
Right,
has to be
and if
approved by the
there's
board.
influence or questions that, right, I mean, I wouldn't want to do it in early April and then, hey, can you guys do
Yeah.
this? No, sorry, the 4th of July is set, you can't do a change, but,
Yeah,
it's the
So I
sooner
had
the
the-
better.
We should have that down.
Well, I had, because ProStack's trying to figure this Riverbend Park out, and they also wanted to meet with the board